Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 6th National Conference on Digital Commerce. Leveraging mobile for commerce. How is mobile helping companies render personalized, contextualized, and location-specific services? How is mobile helping engage customers on the go? How can mobile be the next marketplace and its increasing usage among consumers? Deliberating on some of these issues, we have a wonderful panel here, beginning with our session moderator, Mr. Ravi Sundararajan, Chief Operating Officer, Webaru. May I please invite him on the stage? Mr. Ravi heads all sales, marketing, business development, support, and product operations at Gupshup, Webaru's universal messaging platform. Our esteemed panelists, Mr. Bipin Preet Singh, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, MobiKwik. I invite him on the stage. His current focus is on new product ideas, market differentiation, and building strong revenue streams in the company. Mr. Pranav Bhasin, Vice President Mobile, MakeMyTrip.com. Pranav has 14 years of experience in building consumer products. Mr. Gautam Pandey, Vice President Marketing, Traders.com. He oversees the entire buyer side of the business, including marketing, analytics, CRM, and BioOps. Mr. Mausam Bhatt, Director Mobile Marketing, Flipkart. In this role, he is responsible for leading mobile strategy, customer acquisition, and strategic alliances for India's largest e-commerce platform. And Mr. Amber Krishan, User Experience Strategist, Human Factor International. Amber has in-depth expertise and vast experience in areas such as innovation, design management, web, desktop, mobile interface design, user experience, usability, and applied research. I hand it over to our session moderator, Ravi.
Good morning. So we have a really eclectic panel here, a lot of experience in e-commerce, and we're going to keep it as a free-flowing session. I'll ask them all to talk initially. The main areas we're going to cover are, there's a lot of talk about, we compare ourselves to countries like China and Japan and US, and the key thing that's been asked is how will the e-commerce market here in India evolve? And one of the areas that's played an important role, especially in the evolution of e-commerce in China, which actually is going to overtake US this year, in the next 12 to 18 months, has been mobile, right? And so that's why we chose the topic, the role of mobile, or how will we leverage mobile to grow e-commerce in India. And what we thought is we'll have each of the panelists talk a couple of minutes about the role that mobile has played in their business as operators of leading e-commerce businesses in India, and from different aspects, be it travel or overall shopping or user experience or trading or even exchange of money, M-wallet and stuff like that. So we'll do that, and then we will have a couple of questions and then open it up for a Q&A, because we want it to be interactive. A lot of you guys here are also practitioners of run operations for your e-commerce entities, and so are interested in that area, and we'll have an interactive session after that. So I think we'll go around.
Hi, my name is Bipin. I run a company called MobiKwik. It's a 4-year-old company. We have a unique product called a mobile wallet, and essentially this is a payments product which allows users to feel safe and secure about making payments specifically on mobile, and increases the convenience. It's essentially a prepaid wallet where you store money in advance, and then you use it for recurring payments. And using this wallet, one can completely bypass the traditional payment infrastructure, which is based on credit cards, debit cards, and net banking. As far as mobile is concerned, in fact, we are a 90% mobile company. Only 10% of our entire business is online, and leading with Android apps, iOS apps, and Windows Phone apps, with more than 6 million users now. what we have seen is that there is tremendous adoption of mobile in the country, and especially on apps, and especially on Android, and there is continuous adoption of commerce, which means transactions on the mobile. And we are seeing this to the scale of 1.5 lakh transactions every day. So we are on a mission to provide this mobile wallet product to every leading merchant in this country so that their users can experience the same convenience, the same trust that MobiKwik users are getting today.
Hi, I'm Pranav. I head mobile at Make My Trip. So we really started a mobile journey around 3 years back when the mobile ecosystem was fairly nascent, and we've seen how consumers have evolved over time. At this time, we have our offerings on all platforms, be it Android, iOS, the Nokia X series, Windows phones, a mobile touch site, a site for feature phones. So pretty much our goal has been to impact the lives of travelers, regardless of the device that they're using. One of the things that connects mobile very deeply with travel is the fact that when you're on the go, this is perhaps the only device that you have with you. And in that context, there are a lot of things that we can enable for you on mobile that are just not possible on a lot of other devices. So as an example, if you land up in a city and you haven't booked a hotel, with mobile you can very easily find out hotels around you and compare them and book the right one without any hassles. If you end up with a change of plan, you could cancel and reschedule your flight. So a lot of these cases were the first ones that we had in our mind as we embarked on our mobile journey. Interestingly, what we've seen happening in the last 6 months or so is that the number of users that are reaching out to us on mobile, they have exploded. As Vipin mentioned, there is a much higher usage of apps relative to the site. What we have seen is that there is a shift from mobile being a need-basis platform where only when you are stuck in a situation where you don't have a laptop, you'll use mobile. It's now very quickly moving into a stage where people are using mobile as their de facto booking platform, whether they are at home, whether they are at office, whether they have a laptop or not, because they find it a lot more convenient, they find it's simpler, and I think that is a shift that will sort of define overall e-commerce, not just in travel, but other categories also going forward.
Hi, I'm Gautam. I head marketing for Traders. That's an IVO group company. So Traders as a business has recently pivoted about 10 months back into a mobile-based local marketplace. The idea is that we very, very strongly believe the real value of mobile commerce is unlocked when you bring in the concept of geolocation, which is inherent to the device. What we've seen over the last few months is that there's been a significant adoption towards mobile-based transactions. We've seen, let's say, approximately 60 to 70% of our transactions now coming from mobile devices, which includes both the mobile website and also the apps. Within that, also we have seen a very interesting heavy distribution towards mobile apps. So people really want to use our apps much more than the mobile website itself. The other interesting things that we have noted over the last few months has been that the location element that we want to bring in is something that really does add value to the end customer, as and when we are able to give the customer something that they have in a location which is very near to them. For example, many of the promotions that we run on our on our business, on our website, is also based on where the customer is currently located. So we would list, for example, distances that the seller is currently, the amount of time that the product will take to deliver because of the distance that the seller has from the customer at that point of time. And eventually we would want to take this to a place where we can really make these offers and this commerce truly location-based, as in a person carrying a device inside a market, for example, should eventually be able to see what is being sold around him. This will really unlock the value in terms of the seller being able to reach out to the customers being able to pull, if needed, whatever he wants without having to walk into physically each of these stores. So just to share a quick example, I was, just day before yesterday, I was in the Chandni Chowk market meeting some of our sellers. A very interesting thought that passed through my mind. Being an e-commerce guy, I really felt the inefficiency with which offline retail today is happening. So you look at these storefronts, they have these tiny storefronts, right? There's not so much real estate there. And the only way that they have to reach out to these customers is either you find a place in the main street of the market, or you have these big billboards which are plastered all over the place. That is pretty much all that they have to attract customers to them. Just imagine the value that can be unlocked if I were to go and tell this seller, for example, that you can use this device to reach out to all customers that are walking around you within a 1 kilometer radius, for example. So that, to me, really is the true power of mobile commerce, and specifically in the Indian context, where we have, let's say, 90-95% of commerce still happening through these local markets, which, by the way, still has significant value proposition. If you've been to any of these markets, you would agree with me. So that's where we intend to go. Just a couple of more points that I wanted to share. What we've seen also is the power of personalization and contextualization. One of the channels that has really worked well with us in the mobile world is the notifications. There is a lot of debate around it as to how it impacts retention rates, for example, and how it is really, in the long run, impacting engagement. However, the immediate results are very, very fascinating. It's a completely different channel. It is very, very personalized. It is something that reaches the customer right at the time that you want to send it. And if you compare it, for example, to email as a channel, or even display marketing or search marketing as a channel, it has far more value in it, which still needs to be unlocked. And all of that will happen only once the ecosystem is built around it, where we, as an organization, also mature in tracking the behavior of each of these individual customers carrying these devices, and are able to make offers and able to make communications with these customers at the right point of time with the right messaging. So these are the places where I see mobile commerce really playing a very big role going forward.
Morning, everyone. I'm Mausim Bhatt. I head mobile marketing and alliances for Flipkart. And in our experience mirrors, some of the thoughts you heard from, the folks here. We are seeing massive acceleration in terms of, mobile commerce, and the promise of like m-commerce for us is no longer in the distant future. It's pretty much in the present and now. And what I mean by that is a lot of growth that we're seeing comes from the non-metro cities, where people don't have those traditional 9-to-5 jobs where they may be in front of computers, but their primary access of internet is through their smartphones, which enables us to deliver highly personalized experiences. And when I say highly personalized experiences, we're just talking about notifications. So for example, when we look at big data is a big word, but if I may share an example about how we use it at Flipkart. We analyze how what notifications customers react to on their devices at different points of time. So down to the category level, down to the customer segment level. So we found that at 11:30 in the night, we were seeing a lot of diaper sales happening. Like 11:30 in the night, and then we dug deeper into it and realized that this is when like probably really busy moms have time to shop on their app to order diapers. So those are kind of personalized experiences, insights that mobile is enabling to give. and helping us grow outside of the metro cities, where primarily a lot of activity is happening in using mobile devices. For us, on any given day, we're already seeing more than 50 or 60% of our traffic coming from mobile devices across our apps and mobile site, and increasingly so from the apps. So it's in many ways, as e-commerce evolves, m-commerce is not going to be an extension of online shopping. And for a country like India, it actually could be most of online shopping. So we're very bullish about what the future holds.
Good morning. My name is Ambar Krishan, and I work for a company called Human Factors International. What we do is we design user experiences for digital platforms, for non-digital platforms as well. And user experience is the perspective that I'm going to bring to today's discussion. That's my angle to this. I think it's fairly evident now that mobile is something which has tremendous penetration. Statistics are easily establishing that. The question now is, how do you achieve success? I think that's a very important question. For a very long time, the companies that we work with had the perspective that the way to achieve success in mobile was to make a very usable mobile application, make a very usable mobile site, and that will lead to customer acquisition, and people will start buying from the mobile devices. Experience has told us this is not true. This is not the way to succeed in mobile, because it's not just a scaled down screen from your desktop. It's not a smaller laptop, it's not a smaller tablet. It's a very different device. It provides very different modalities to the user who's using this device, and there needs to be a different approach towards doing this. One of the approaches that we use is called the PET methodology. It stands for persuasion, emotion, and trust. Okay? It's an emotional device, which means you need to appeal to people's trust if you want them to transact through mobiles. Mobile wallets typically suffer from trust issues with people actually making transactions mobile. Trust is a major component. Then there is emotions and persuading people to perform the actions you want them to do in the mobile as well. So there's a complete framework about the way you approach this. I will not talk too extensively about this today, but we can of course converse offline. The other perspective to keep in mind is mobile is great. It is a very powerful computing device. It has tremendous sensors. It has tremendous capability inside it. That does not mean it can do everything. It cannot be your brick and mortar store. Okay? It cannot be your customer service agent that people like to see face to face. It will not replace each and every component of that. Mobile phones exist to serve a very specific purpose in the overarching scheme of the user's experience. And it's very important to approach it from that perspective when you design these experiences to achieve business success. Okay. So I'll keep it short at this point, and of course, we'll talk more during the duration of this panel.
So I think one of the key points that's coming out is mobile obviously is going to play a huge role, but not only for customer acquisition, but also for engagement and fulfillment, right? So even like MobiKwik, we are also 100% mobile. We work with several e-commerce companies and also mobile transaction companies where we enable some of these notifications, customer engagement stuff. And what we notice also is the time of the day, the context of the notification, and the location. When you add all these things, it becomes very powerful. There are certain things happen in certain regions in certain times of the day. There are certain combination of products work in certain regions. In South, it's a different combination, whereas in Delhi, it'll be a different combination. So all these things are huge insights. We talk about big data, we talk about mobility, we talk about social. One of the things that's very common in India is even people whom you don't know, if they make a recommendation about a product that they've bought, it carries a lot of weight because they actually are willing to try it out, especially for smaller size transactions, which is very different from a market like US. And it's akin to China also, where social media recommendations matter a lot. And most people, because of the long distance commutes, because of access to broadband, because being in media dark areas or even in tier 2, tier 3 towns or rural areas, mobile is the only window into the digital world. And so that becomes kind of the first order. So that's pretty important. But now let me take a little bit of a contrarian view. So a lot of people say, okay, this is great, mobile's great, e-commerce should take off in India and all that. But when we look at where we are today compared to where countries like China, they also started maybe, 5-10 years ago. Overall, we did about 12 billion, I think, would say is the mobile market size, $12 billion maybe, is that correct? Right? Some 12 to 15, yeah. So maybe next year is going to be 18, but so somewhere in the 15. Yeah, overall e-commerce market is about $15 billion in India today, right? But when you compare that to China, which is going to be close to $300 billion this year, it's like 20 times more, right? And obviously US and quite other things. So what is it that those are factors that are preventing them? Obviously mobile will be an enabler and a bunch of other things. We talked about trust, we talked about security, we talked about perception, we talked about, okay, I just want to browse and then go and actually do a physical transaction, right? So what is it that we all can do? What are the 2-3 factors that are preventing, and what can we do to kind of actually unleash and get the rate of growth much higher? In China, it was close to 150%, but if you take an average for 10 years, last 2 years has been 66%. And in India is catching up, but I think what is it we can do to kind of unleash the rate of growth? Because there is a need, because there are not enough malls, real estate is costly, a lot of people who have money are in some of the tier 2, tier 3 towns. So there is a need, but there is a lot of factors preventing it. So what can we do to kind of unleash it and really, get going with it? Because we are just starting and it's very minimal today. So maybe I'll have you start.
Yeah, I think I think you hit upon the notes around, trust, security, payments. I think China is also in some ways, a different market. So I was looking at Alibaba's, which is the biggest e-commerce player there, their recent IPO filing. They are doing about 20% of their, GMV or gross merchandise value sales comes from m-commerce space. And I think most companies in India, are fairly ahead of the curve in that. So I think as a percentage of transactions, I think we're doing fine. It's the total volume which needs to pick up. I think overall, I think it's as e-commerce hits mainstream, things will evolve. I think companies need to do a lot more. So companies like Flipkart and other companies, we continue to see a lot of our payment transactions. They're not really transactions; they're cash on delivery. So I think that's one big area that needs to be addressed. I think. Either from the operator side, so Airtel and Vodafone are putting in efforts there. A lot of closed wallets are coming into the system. That could be a big enabler. I think inherently also China, if you look at shopping, is very integrated into a lot of their social apps are actually shopping apps. So if you look at the WeChats of the world, which are extremely highly penetrated in China, shopping is an integral part of that platform. So maybe that's the direction that eventually that there's no reason why India cannot have a social network which is purpose built for India, meets the needs of the consumers here. I think what works in the West with the Facebooks of the world or the Twitters of the world may not logically extend into say the tier 1, tier 2 cities. So maybe payments, social platforms, all of that can help drive that growth.
Thanks. So in conjunction to what my colleague just talked about, I think personalization and contextualization of experiences is a very powerful tool. Okay. And a lot of services have been trying to do it, so I'll give you some examples as well. GPS as a technology in mobile devices is used very commonly to give people location-specific recommendations, etc. TripAdvisor does this, many different applications do this, etc. But this has challenges. GPS is fairly inaccurate in terms of location. It also consumes tremendous battery power life, which often leads to the users using it selectively and not often enough. The other applications which are trying to use other capabilities, for example, microphone. So Facebook now is starting to use the microphone to listen in on the kind of music and content that you consume and be able to push similar kind of things to you. There's another application called color, which can determine what space you are in based on what it listens in your microphone. Okay. So there are a lot of things that companies are trying to do, but what it comes out from this is still fairly inaccurate. And inaccurate personalization is not personalization. In fact, it becomes tacky. Okay. Some technologies are trying to do this better. I don't know if you heard of the beacon technology. Beacons is low energy information emitting devices which you can install as networks in different shopping places at different locations, and they trigger your mobile device to push you certain recommendations. This is still experimental because the adoption is not as much right now, but this is far more promising in terms of accuracy. So there's one perspective is from the technology you can use to be able to create these experiences. The other perspective is when you push recommendations, when you push advertisement to the end users, you have to be again very careful, because if we do it too much or if we use means which have been used too much, then it becomes very painful for the end user. SMSs with generic messages, banner ads on mobile devices, your USSD ads, all of these are now decreasing in terms of success rates. So you have to be careful about that. I'll give you an example. It's a bit of a joke. There was an application called Dangerous Criminals. Okay? And this application allows people to see if there are any dangerous criminals which are registered close to their vicinity on a map. This application, when you launch it, asks you, can I please use your current location so I can give you this information? Now this application, when it sends the push notification, it frames it like this. Dangerous criminals would like to use your current location. Okay. So you have to be careful about how you frame messaging and also the kind of channels you use to achieve success in current or newer markets.
So, as far as we are concerned, we focus squarely on making payments happen. And it's one of the, points which Mosam also mentioned. What we see is that, what's important to understand first is why the traditional digital payment methods don't work for a lot of users, which is beyond the sort of the trust issue. Even if I am a user and if I have a card or I am using net banking, why is it difficult to make a transaction on mobile? For that, one has to do a little bit of a deep dive into how the payments infrastructure is set up in India. And when you look at it, one will observe that the payment infrastructure has actually not been upgraded or has not seen any fundamental innovation over the last 10 years. It is the same Visa and MasterCard switches. It is the same net banking platform which was there on desktop, which is being used on mobile. To give you an example, there are certain versions of Android like 4.4 and above, where the net banking of certain banks, and this is not one of the smaller banks, doesn't work at all. The reason it doesn't work, because their net banking page is not optimized for mobile, and it has an SSL certificate which is not compatible with the the version of Android that is being upgraded. So issues like this are actually leading to users abandoning cards, users not completing their transactions, specifically on mobile. What we look at is how to solve this problem. And the way we solve this problem is specifically for recurring use cases, whether you want to do a mobile recharge, whether you want to do a bill payment, whether you want to do travel, book bus tickets, train tickets, whether you want to do shopping. Why use your bank? Why use your card? Why not use a virtual wallet where you can keep money in a limited amount? Because, after all, that also increases the trust issue. If you have lakhs of rupees in your bank account, that their insecurity is there that, you don't want to use this card online. Whereas if you have a virtual wallet where you keep, let's say, 10,000 rupees, it becomes much easier. So we are offering such a solution which allows merchants to try out a MobiKwik wallet as a payment solution, and it is already sort of working on one of the few leading merchants in the country. You can try it out on ebay.in, on Book My Show, on Redbus, on Domino's if you're ordering pizza. And users are adopting this in a big way. We look at this payments as specifically a major problem that needs to be solved.
So a lot of issues and areas have been talked about by the gentleman over here. I'll actually start off with a slight story because I think there is a lot of scope in terms of how mobile will grow. So if we rewind back to the last century when radio used to be the prominent medium of communication and when TV had just come in, one of the things that happened was that the initial TV programs that were broadcast, they actually had radio jockeys holding a mic like this and talking to the audience with the video playing. So the point that I'm trying to drive is that whenever there is a big shift, there is a certain way in which people are used to doing things, and the new medium starts off typically with that method translating into the new medium before it evolves into its own, which is what TV has done since then to what it is today. I think mobile is pretty much in very early days where what a lot of companies are trying to do is replicate or sort of have a smaller version of what exists on the web onto mobile. It is going to evolve eventually into a dramatically different medium with beacons coming in, with a completely different way in which people will interact and use apps over here. So there are three broad areas that I think which are immediately which immediately need to be addressed in order to spur the growth over there. And the longer term, in the longer term view, the medium will itself reinvent or change dramatically to use the capabilities it provides to the maximum. So the first thing that we notice is that a lot of people have perceptions about security of transactions on mobile or how easy it is. And the surprising bit is that a lot of people who talk about these, they haven't even attempted a transaction before. They haven't even tried to make a payment. They just feel that it's really difficult to do. So I think the first thing that we need to break through is this whole perception of security or difficulty of transactions through mobile, because for people who do just one transaction on our app, after doing that transaction, a lot of them shift to just saying that, hey, this is going to be my preferred booking medium going forward, because it is dramatically easier than web. It has a very specific pointed information, and I can actually make a decision much faster on your mobile apps than I can do on the web. So that's the trend that we've seen. The second thing that I would say as an area is payments, which is what companies like MobiKwik are trying to attack. And as and when payments become more seamless, as people get more comfortable parking a higher amount in mobile wallets, one-click payments will become a lot easier on mobile. Right now, one of the constraints that we need to deal with is the two-factor authentication mandate by RBI, where you either need to get a PIN number or you need to redirect the user to a verified by Visa page, and most of those pages are not optimized for mobile. So that's another area that needs to be cracked. The third trend that we are seeing is people moving between devices. So a lot of people today have tablets that they use around bedtime or while watching TV. People have mobile phones that they use on the go, laptops in office or separate laptops at home. So what we've seen is that the whole purchase journey is actually split across all of these devices. You may search for a flight on mobile in the morning, go back and do some more research on your laptop in the afternoon, come back, have a discussion with your wife over a tablet in the evening, and go ahead and make a purchase on one of these devices. So understanding how people are moving between these devices, and then as a customer helping them across these channels, not just on mobile but across all these channels, is another thing that would really help add value to consumers' lives.
So I think most points have already been covered. What I will share with you is basically a thought, the way that I think of our own business when we think of mobile first businesses, right? So if you really look at the value proposition that the mobile device is bringing to the end customer, it is, I think of it as three different stages almost. The first is the anytime, anywhere value proposition, which is fairly evident. So you're carrying the device with you all the time, so you will begin to use it at times and places where you were earlier just not able to use the device. So we are seeing that, for example, similar to what Mausam just mentioned as well. We have seen transaction rates going up after office hours, for example. We've got peaks now between 8 and 10 p.m., which earlier used to be more during the lunchtime, during work hours. So those changes are already beginning to play out. So we definitely have covered this first stage of anytime, anywhere value proposition. The second value proposition that I feel the mobile device really brings in, and which is slightly more nuanced, is the personalization and contextualization piece, which Amber also mentioned in great detail. It's like he very rightly said, it's a double-edged sword. If you implement it correctly, you will get great engagement. If you just overdo it slightly, overstep anywhere, you will see retentions dropping off. That for me is a slightly more evolved version of the same device being used, the way that you are pushing notifications, the way that consumers are consuming it. The third level of engagement and the third real value that the device brings, according to me, is what I spoke about earlier, and which is basically the location sensitivity. I think that piece, if you notice the first 2 points, right, the anytime, anywhere value proposition, and also the personalization, contextualization piece, is really not something which is game changing. It is not something that is new to the concept of online commerce. We do contextualization and personalization today as we speak. Even on our websites, on all the emailers that are sent out, we do have a benefit coming in with the anytime, anywhere concept, because the same transactions are now happening over a larger period of time across different locations. However, it is still in the same realm. The location concept, I feel, has the power to change the entire dynamics of retail commerce, and specifically so for India, like I was talking earlier. And for me, we as an industry, and specifically we as a business as well, are right now just scratching the surface with the anytime, anywhere value proposition, and maybe getting into the contextualization and personalization piece. What really needs to evolve for us, all of us, as an industry, is to get really, really deep into, for example, into things like tracking of real-time data for each of these users. We are still struggling, and I'm sure that many others will share this view, to find very, very specific information for each individual mobile app that has been installed. For example, what was the date and time that was specifically uninstalled at? So these are very micro level things, but these are things that need to evolve over time, which will lead us to really help unleash the value of the personalization and contextualization. And that's when you begin to think about the third level of engagement, which again Amber just mentioned about Beacon and other such services coming in. So you will notice that in the US, for example, already there's a lot of hue and cry about Beacon, about apps like Shopkick and Milo. All of these apps are basically unleashing the third level of value that you can get out of the mobile device. However, we as an industry here are right now still, in my opinion, working on the first and the second stages. Thanks.
So there are a few questions that have come through the chat app. One is, so I'll read them out. I think we'll take some of them and we'll maybe also take some from the audience there. So this is for you, Mausam. They asked you whether you can elaborate on the idea of an Indian social platform. Isn't Facebook and Twitter it? So
I think my point was around context. So if a few days ago I was listening to customer calls, people shopping on our apps, and facing issues or calling our assisted buying, helpline. And you realize that social context in India is very different in terms of shopping. So I was talking to a college student who was trying to buy a laptop, and she was using the app, and then he wanted to share some information. So like it wasn't very evident whether he was 18 or not. So we, as per our policy, we said, we need to talk to somebody in your family. And he said, yeah, my dad is here, he's helping me buy the laptop. And so then, we get on a call with his dad, and then we're helping them finish the transaction, and then they want to use a credit card because they wanted to use an EMI scheme. And his uncle had the credit card. So, shopping in India is, it's easy for us to solve for the top 1%, the highly evolved audience, say working for an IT or an MNC, say in Delhi or Bangalore or Bombay. But if you want to make this relevant to the masses, help them who are primarily accessing internet via mobile and devices, we need to bring a social context to it, because a lot of buying decisions inherently happen social in India. You talk to a friend, then you talk to your neighbor, and then you get opinions from 5 elders in your house, and then make that big ticket purchase. So when I say that it may not be a platform a social platform on itself, but a lot of platforms need to evolve to meet the needs of India. And I think China is much ahead in that terms. If you look at their social networks and how deeply they are integrated into other facets of their life, be it e-commerce or utilities or whatnot, I think that level of extension and adapting it to the Indian context is going to be important. And I honestly am not sure whether it's on the radars of the big social networks out there, like the Facebooks or Twitters. Maybe people will work on extensions of that or come up with their own versions of those.
The second question, I think, is for you, Pranav. So I think the question is, what percentage of your transactions today are mobile, and where do you see it going in a year? So.
Okay. So we have around, on mobile, we have around 30% of our total traffic today. And the transactions are also north of 20% overall. So it's a great place to be in, and I think the pace at which mobile overall is growing, it effectively means that over the coming year, a lot more people are going to reach out to us for transactions and for other needs on the mobile devices. And overall, as far as the travel segment goes, I think the adoption of mobile seems to be on a great trajectory.
So I think, I'm not sure who this question is for. It says that when do you think iBeacons will penetrate Indian markets, and where do you think they'll first enter from? So, you want to take this? iBeacons.
iBeacons are a little far away from coming to India. They're a little far away from coming to US currently as well. They're still experimental in nature, and like NFC as a technology, they are a bit infrastructure intensive. Expect another 2 years at least.
Are there any questions from the audience? There's a question here. Yeah. Can someone give him a mic?
Yeah, questions to Gautam, Pranav, and Mosam. So most apps send notifications. You've touched upon it in terms of personalized notifications and all. When you send notifications, whether personalized or more mass-centric in nature, do you see a correlation of that with uninstalls? So it's like equivalent of hitting the spam button on the email that you send. So if you try to correlate that with the unsubscribe on the email, how does that fare?
So that's a very relevant question, and I think we actually very recently just conducted an analysis to understand exactly that behavior, whether we see a direct correlation between the frequency of notifications that we send and also the nature of notifications that we send. So we have different levels of segmentation. I could really go to a very deep level of segmentation, saying this particular customer browsed a certain set of products which belong to a certain leaf category and also to a certain price point, and basis that I give him a certain recommendation. So different levels of segmentation plus different frequencies. What we came up with was, in the immediate analysis, we could not come out with any such correlation that we could directly establish. Having said that, the way that this plays out also is slightly longer term. So it's a complex thing to answer if you just look at maybe the last 2 weeks of data. So what we are intending to do now is to run this experiment with frequency and also with the nature of notifications over a longer period of time in order to be able to measure if there is a direct correlation. My gut tells me that there just has to be a strong enough correlation. However, with numbers, we so far have not been able to prove it.
We internally classify all our communication into 2 or 3 buckets, and notification sort of falls into the range which would qualify as the most personal, at the same time most intrusive communication, followed by SMS, followed by email, where a lot of transactional messages or promotional mailers typically go. And as a result, right from the beginning, our strategy has not been primarily notifications driven as far as the growth in transactions goes. We've always believed that if the product is good, if it adds value, people will come back and they'll transact. But we have done experiments where we do send out some of our major deals. We notify people over notifications, and there are some app-only offers which we do send out on notifications. And we have seen a correlation between sending out a notification and the uninstall rate around that time spiking up. The other thing that we have seen is that a lot of it depends on the nature of the notification. So if it's a really good offer, people don't really mind it. But if it's an average or an okay offer, then a lot more people are likely to uninstall. So I think at the end of the day, if whatever channel you are using, you are providing commensurate value to the user, they'll appreciate it. But if it tends to become intrusive and spammy communication, then it ends up getting the desired result.
I think similar thoughts. I mean, we never view marketing coming at the cost of customer delight. So I think while we've started experimenting a lot with notifications, we're going very slowly, and we're not thinking of notifications in isolation. We want to view it at an individual customer level, trying to orchestrate all our channels together. So if somebody's more responsive to reading emails on their mobile devices compared to desktop, or to notifications of certain kinds based on their intents, what the browse history, search history, order history. So notification is part of the mix, but it's not that we're planning to put like 70% or 80% of our efforts on notification. It has to be part of the mix, and in a way it makes sense for an individual customer, not at a much broader segment level.
So I think we are out of time. I saw the signals there. So you have one last question? Okay, maybe we'll take one last question. Can someone get a mic there?
Hi, my name is Seema Bansal. I'm from a company called dcgpack.com. And my question is to Bipin Preet Singh, MobiKwik. We have an online portal running dcgpack.com, and we have the CC Avenue on our payment gateway. How would MobiKwik would help us to, can it be integrated with dcgpack.com to take the payments online? Does it?
So definitely MobiKwik wallet can help you, make the payment experience better for your own customers, as well as we already have users who use the wallet actively. So as soon as the wallet goes live on your website or on your mobile app, you all of a sudden see 5 million users who are trained to transact digitally. They can go and transact on your website. And we work very closely with our merchants, as well as, of course, with our consumers to ensure that there is engagement in terms of the wallet usage on the merchants. Of course, the user experience of the payments would be far better because instead of, entering card details or multiple banking details, all they need to enter is one password to make a transaction.
Or they must have the user ID or password with MobiKwik or with dcgpack.com.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we'll be around. You can ask us for questions later. So thanks a lot. Thanks for the panelists for being here. And we'll talk to you all later. Thanks. Bye.
Well, thanks very much for this wonderful interactive plenary session 1. I'd once again like to thank Mr. Bipin Preet Singh, Mr. Pranav Bhasin, Mr. Gautam Pandey, Mr. Mausam Bhatt, and Mr. Amber Krishnan.